am Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj. I work as an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science at Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi. So friends, we have been talking about how websites are created, how the World Wide Web is organized, and how we can design good interactive websites for the internet and for the World Wide Web. So in this series we are talking about front end web development particularly, that is what the client sees, that is the design element, the graphics element, the aesthetics of the website are our prime concern when we are talking about the front end development. So in the previous lectures we had talked about how we can create websites and pages which are very attractive using different kinds of fonts, using different kinds of colors, backgrounds, and we had also discussed briefly about how we can also use tables to show our data or to show the content of a web page in a more systematic, in a more organized, in a more structured manner. So taking back from there, we are going to start with a brief introduction about tables, which will be a recap of what we had discussed in the previous lecture, and then we will be moving to another very important tool of laying out a web page content, that is the frames. So in this lecture we are going to talk about tables and frames. So we all know that HTML tables will allow the authors to arrange the data, whether it is text or it is images or those are links or even other tables in rows and columns. So we know that a table is a two-dimensional structure which is it is like a grid format which has got rows and which has got columns. So in these rows and columns, that is the cells we create using the rows and columns, we can put text, we can put images, or we can even put other tables as well as hyperlinks. That is why a table was also earlier used to lay out contents on the web page, and even now when you make websites which are very simpler and a novice web developer can use a table to showcase or to lay out the contents on a single page in a more organized manner. However, now the technologies have changed and we have better ways of organizing some different content on the page. We will be discussing about that, but nevertheless tables still remain a very, very important component of a web page and of designing and laying out content on the thing. So we had discussed that when you create a table, the main tag that is used to create a table is the table tag, and there is a corresponding closing table tag. Now within the table tag we will use the tr tag to define the row of the table. Of course tr also has to be close. So if you have one table in which there are 3 rows, so you will have 3 tr tags, one for each row. Then in each row now you have to create the cells. So for that what you use is you use the td tag. So the td tag is used to create a cell within a row. So in each tr you will have as many number of td tags as you want to create the column. So if your row has got 4 cells or 4 columns, so you will have 4 times you will have td and slash td. And between td and slash td you will put the content. Now this content could be, as we have discussed, this content could be an image, it could be a text, it could be a link, or it can even be another table. Then we also have to understand that by default HTML tables, they come without a border. So if you want the grid lines or the borders in the table to be shown, then you have to explicitly specify that. Now how do you specify whether you want a table with border or not? You will have to write the word border as an attribute of the table tag. So in the table tag we write table and border. You can also specify the thickness of the border by giving the number of pixels. So you can write, say, border is equal to 8. So this means that a border of 8 pixels width will be created in your table. Then sometimes or rather most of the times tables, the first row in the table is the heading row. Like for example, if you are creating a mark sheet, so you have certain headings like the roll number of the student, the name of the student and the different marks, total, etc. So these are headings. So when you want to create a title row or the heading row, then instead of TD you will use TH. So TH means that this is not the data but this is heading. So what is the advantage? That when you use TH instead of TD, then your data will automatically become center aligned and it will be bold. So it will appear like a heading. Then we had also discussed that you can also control the amount of space between two cells, and you can control the amount of space between the data of the cell and the margins, around the margins. So where exactly the data will be placed within a cell. So this can be done using two different attributes, that is cell spacing and cell padding. Now again, because these correspond to individual cell, so you will use these attributes with the TD tag. So you will write TD cell spacing is equal to 5. So this means that a space of 5 pixels will be surrounded between two adjacent cells. So two adjacent cells will be 5 pixels apart. And cell padding is used, as I just said, cell padding will be used to specify or to define some space between the data and the margin of the cell or the border of the cell. So that also can be specified using cell padding. Then we had also seen that if you want to merge rows and columns, then you can also do that using col span and row span attribute. Sometimes you need one particular column to span over two rows, or one particular row to span over two columns. So in that case, what you need is you will have to create a col span attribute and you will write col span is equal to 2. Again this you specify with the TD attribute. So you will write TD col span is equal to 2. So that particular cell will span 2 columns. If you will write TD row span is equal to 2, then that particular cell will span 2 rows. So actually you are merging row wise or you are merging column wise. Then most of the tables, they always require a caption or a heading to specify what the table talks about. Say for example, if it is a payroll for the month of February, so the caption of the table will be payroll for the month of February 2024, or if it is a mark sheet, so you need to give a caption on the table. So caption tag is used for specifying the caption or the heading of the table. Right, what is the significance of the table, for labeling the table. So caption is a separate tag which you use within the table tag, and in caption and closing caption tag you will write the caption or the heading of the table. And you can also control whether the caption will appear at the top of the table, which is the default behavior, or whether it will appear at the bottom of the table. So if you want that the caption should come at the bottom of the table, you will write caption align is equal to bottom, and then you will write the closing caption tag. So the caption will now come at the bottom of the table. So friends, this was a quick recap of what we had discussed about tables in the last lecture. Now we will come to the background of the table. Say for example, you want a particular color to come in the table as a background color, okay, or you want an image to be set as a background image for the whole table, or it can be for a single cell also, right. So we can do both these things, right. So with giving the BG color attribute, we can set the background color of the table, and with giving the background attribute and the URL, we can specify the background of the entire table. So you can see here in this example, we have given a background image to the table and we have also specified a border. So here we are writing table background is equal to, and we are writing the name of the image. If you will recall from the previous lectures, here we can also give the absolute path, that is the complete path of the image file within the system. So you can either give the name of the image, or if it is in another folder, it is always safer to give the complete URL, that is the absolute path, right. In this example, you also see the usage of the caption tag, that how we are using the caption. So the caption of this table is the background image, and then you can also use the TD tag has been used here, and the different fonts have been specified, font colors have been specified, and the row is closing. So it is a table which has got one row and it has got 4 columns. So you can see here, this is the table which comes, and it has got the caption, that is the background image, and 4 columns are coming here, and the image is coming as a background image for the table. The entire table is having a same background, right. Then we also have an option of controlling the way the borders appear or the border colors appear, right. So far we have seen that you can give a color to a cell, you can give a color to a row, a column, or you can give a color to the entire table uniformly, right. But you can also give a 3D effect to the borders by putting or by giving a suitable border color to it. So this can also be done, and there are different attributes which can be used for this. So the first attribute is border color light, and another attribute is border color dark. So border color light is used for the top and the right margin. The color will be assigned to the top and the right margin, and border color dark will be assigned to the left and the bottom margin, or the left and the bottom side border of the table. So when you give both these colors, that is you give border color light and you give border color dark, then a 3D effect can be created within your table. As you can see here, when you give these, it creates a 3D visual effect in your table, right. Then you can also control the height and width of the table, that is the size of the table, right. How that can be done? For that we have the height and the width attributes of the table tag, right. So we can specify the height and width in terms of pixels, just like we had discussed in case of images, same way, or you can describe, or you can define the height and width in terms of percentage of available screen area. So in this example you can see that we are writing table border is equal to 1. So this is, we are specifying a very thin border to the table, and we are writing width 400 and height is 150. So this 400 and 150 is actually pixels, but we do not write the unit here. So we simply write width is 400 and height is 150. So and you can also give the size of the table in percentage format. So you can also write table height is equal to 50% and width is equal to 30%. So here 50% and 30% will correspond to the screen area. So 50% of the screen area will be occupied by the table, and 30% of the screen area will be occupied by the table in the height wise. So both ways you can specify the size of the table, either height and width in pixels or height and width in percentage. Now next very important thing that we must consider, because we had seen that tables they allow us to lay out contents on the page, to organize or to align contents on the page very nicely. So and therefore there is a concept of nested tables that is very commonly used, and that is very popular amongst designers. At one point of time that was really very popular. So nested tables means that one table is a part of another table, that is one table is inside the other tables, right. So as we had discussed earlier also, that when you have a table, you define the TR and TD. Now within the TD and /TD tag, you are generally putting text, but if you do not put text, instead you put another table, you put the definition of another table, then that will become a nested table. So table within a table. So this is an example of nested table. So, you can see that there is one outer table, okay, and in the second row there is another table in the second column. Actually, the first column says contact. The second column where TD is opening, instead of having one line of text or any other thing, we are simply putting the definition of another table. So, table TR, first name and last name, and then the inner table is closing and then the outer table is closing. So, this concept is known as nesting of tables, that is, one table becomes a part of another table, or it is, it is within one table that you are putting another table. So, if you look here, this is also an example, and here we are using tables to lay out the contents of the page. So, here if you have one there is one table which has got one single row and two columns. So, the first column is actually having one table and the second column is having some text. So, this way if, and also it is important to note that if you do not put the borders around the table, or if you do not put the word border in the table, then these borders will also not appear. Then it can also look like one single structure. If you imagine this table without the grid lines, then it will look very interestingly formatted and very interestingly laid out that way. So, therefore, it is very important that we see that how tables can be used in multiple ways, not just to organize numerical or numbers and to show the data in a more structured manner, but it can also be used to align the contents side by side. So, if we look at it now, we can see that the table that we are just created. So, you have one table, and in that table you have another table where you are defining the details about the thing, and you are also specifying a image. So, if you see in the first TD, we are writing row span is equal to 2, because as you can see here, the cell which is having the image is spanning 2 rows. So, here it is, you are writing TD row span is equal to 2, and then you are putting the image SRC, because you are putting the image, you are loading the image in this particular cell, and for the image we are specifying the height and width, and also we are putting no border. So, we are writing border is equal to 0. So, this is the first cell. Then you have the second cell in which you are putting the name, and then of course, because it is the row is finishing here, so TR, and then you come to the next row. So, this sex is equal to female is actually a part of the second row. So, when you are using the row span and the col span attributes, you have to be very careful that where one row is ending and where the second row is beginning. So, the cell, actually the cell which is in which the image has been loaded, it belongs to the first row, and the cell in which the sex is female is written, that belongs to the second row, and then there is third row at the bottom of the image. So, actually in this we have 3 rows. The first cell of course has been merged by using the row span attribute. So, if you can use the row span and col span judiciously, that can completely enhance the functionality of tables. Then also there is important attribute, that is V align attribute. If you can see here, within a cell also you can align the contents vertically, right. So, you can see in the first cell it is written name is Pichu, which is at the bottom of the cell, but in the second cell where you can see sex is female, that is written in the middle. So, this can be done using the V align attribute. So, the V align attribute can be specified in the TD tag, and you write TD V align is equal to top, or V align is equal to bottom, or V align is equal to middle. So, accordingly you can give the vertical alignment of the contents within a cell. You can give the horizontal alignment also by using the H align, in which you can align the left, right and center of the table. So, besides this, many a times we also see that tables, they have information which is organized in the form of sections. right. So, the first section generally, if you say that the first row is the header row in which the headings will appear, then you may have some data rows in which the data is appearing, and the last row is generally, it is having the totals, or it is having the averages or the grand total, that kind of summarized information. So, we can also create a table which has got this kind of arrangement of data with like in sections using the section attribute or using the section feature. So, actually you can create 3 sections within a table. So, the first section that you create is the T head section. So, T head section, as we already know that it is the header section. So, this is the first row in which you are defining the heading. Then you have the T body, that is the body of the table where your complete data of the table is coming. So, here you can see we have defined 2 rows in the body of the table, and then you have the T foot or the footer portion of the table in which the summaries or the totals etc. are going to appear. So, we can create 3 sections like this using the 3 different tags, that is T head, T body and T foot. So, these 3 sections will be arranged, or these 3 sections will be appearing like this. You can see in this example, and the first section is appearing as a heading, and then you have the body, and the last section will have the totals or it will have the cumulative information. So, this way if you arrange, when you have got longer tables, then if you put the data in sections, your tables become more readable, they become more easily understandable by the user, and they are also having summarized information. So, therefore, for longer tables, if you create this kind of heading wise structure or section wise structure, that may be very, very useful that way. Then if you look at borders, like in normal text processing softwares that we use, we can give different types of borders to our tables. Sometimes we want no border, sometimes we want only the vertical borders, sometimes we want only the outside borders. So, likewise in HTML also we have got different types of border styles, right. So, we can have 4 types of border styles here. You can see here. So, the first is rules. So, the attribute which you use to define the border style is called the rules attribute. So, you can see here you write table, then you define the border. So, the border is equal to 2 means we are defining the size of the border, and then we write rules is equal to rows. So, rules is equal to rows means that only the row wise borders are going to come, only the horizontal borders are going to come. Then you can define border and rules is equal to calls. So, calls means only the vertical borders are going to be displayed. Then you can define rules is equal to all, which is also the default behavior of the table. So, here all the borders will be coming, whether it is vertical borders or whether it is horizontal borders. So, rules is equal to all will show you all the borders, and if you have created sections in your table, like we had created the T head, T body and T foot, that kind of sections if we had created, then you can give rules is equal to groups. So, then your table data will be appearing as grouped also. So, this kind of a structure or this kind of grid lines can also make your table easier to read, particularly when you are using rules is equal to groups. So, you can create the groups and the lines will separate one group from the other. So, it will make your table really very easy to read for the user. So, this is going to add a lot of readability and usability to your page or to your table data for that matter, right. So, this is all about tables that we have discussed so far. So, we have seen in this lecture that how you can create tables, how you can create merged cells, how you can create different types of grid lines, how you can create very attractive tables and using very simple commands. So, in the next lecture we will be talking about frames, Till then, please keep watching CEC. Thank you.